I just want to give a peaceful greeting to all the listeners here, and want to welcome my good buddy Element X to my podcast, which I haven't done in years. So, Element, for the very few guys that don't know you, you just want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on, Shining. Yeah, it's been a while since we've Shining and I have actually sat down and have a conversation. Some people might have, caught us in passing on previous hangouts and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a while, and I think this might be the first. I think we were talking. This was the first time him and I actually were able to sit down and actually do a hangout. Um,
Yeah, we've been
that
on Hangouts
wasn't
before.
either.
We've been on Hangouts
Yeah,
before,
and
but
so,
it's always been with much stronger characters, so we've always been overshadowed. But this is the first time me and you we've had a one-on-one chat, and I think it's been way overdue.
I think so too. I think today will be a good talk. We have a lot of great topics to talk about, and a lot of very important things. I think we should throw our 2 cents into. And I think the first topic you had was talking about the podcast scene, and this
Mm.
is something that I mentioned to Shining about that I wanted to bring up. And we were having some conversation on Google about this and how it seems like the podcast scene is kind of dying a little bit, or at least it's become very mute. And I think one of the reasons why this might be the case, and I'm going to coin a new term here, is that people have information fatigue. I think that nowadays we live in a world that is so fast paced, everything is instantaneous. And I remember reading this article somewhere talking about how people have the attention span of a goldfish now. And so to have somebody sit through like 2 or 3 hours, if not longer, is very difficult, I think, for most people to sit through. And I think most people just don't even bother. I think the people that end up sitting through that, those are the people we're marketing to. Those are the people that we really want to pay attention to because they're willing to sit through it all. But I do think a lot of it has to do with information fatigue. And I think, especially here in the United States, I think this is happening everywhere. I think what the news has done, what all the mainstream political garbage has done, is that it has just worn people down to a point where to even get up and pay attention to this stuff anymore. What's your take, Shining?
Well, it'll be interesting to compare. I mean, to get some type of context to what you're saying there, it'll be interesting to compare. I mean, today's scene to perhaps how it was a few years ago. I know certainly I'd agree with you there. I think the podcast scene has been a bit limp lately. I mean, that's not to uh, uh, downgrade some of the some of the great podcasts that we do get occasionally. But I know when Hangouts first started, I mean, people will. It was quite a novelty. I know Trav, he's Traversable, or Joe. He's been very regular, and shout out to Joe, obviously an honourable mention. He's been very regular, and I think he's worked very hard to keep his Travcast regular, and also staying free. He was a new face, but I think as with all things, I think people will get. I mean, regardless of what situation you're in, all men just want to make the best of their situation, and constantly having to be told that this there's a danger here, and this is a problem, and you need to think seriously here. I think sometimes people they just want to let their hair down, and they just want to talk about sports, or talk about something light. And I think maybe that's where we are now. I think people, as you say, there's a bit of a intellectual fatigue. I think maybe that's part of the reason.
Yeah, and I think another thing is just simply put, people like to talk. People want to have conversation. I think we
Yeah,
are such a minority of a group. Things that we discuss are so far from what anybody dares to go to, and especially when it comes down to topics like we discuss with gender politics. I don't even like using that term because it's so stigmatized with feminism. I hate that word now. But we talk about these things because no one else is going to. And there's very few of us. And so because there's very few of us, you know, it's such a rarity to find people with similar type of ways of thinking that, you know, we want to talk to people like that because we can actually get a lot of stuff done in personal lives more than anything. Because if we just exist and if I just walked out, you know, into the world now, a random person and just started spewing this stuff, they would look at me like I'm nuts because, you know, it's so far out there. And so just like to talk, you know, we like to share like minds and opinions. And I think that's just a human thing to do.
I mean, some of the things we talk about are very, very heavy topics. I mean, they're very, uh, very mentally taxing, emotionally taxing. I mean, some of the things we talk about are not your, they're not your entertainment, news at 10 type of stuff. It's, we're talking about, suicide. We're talking about uh, men's lives being destroyed, and we're talking about homelessness and stuff like that, and it can be quite mentally and emotionally draining. But I mean, to shed some light on it, I mean, if we compare today's podcasting to how it was like a few years ago, obviously, because now it's been going on for a while, but there will be that group or those group of men that are moved past the stage of the initial discussions, and now they're just trying to apply the things that they've learned or apply the things that they've discussed. I mean, how would you compare today's Manosphere podcast to say how it was like in 2013, 14?
I think back then we were still very new at this. You know, we were still learning about all of the terminology. Um, you know, we were trying to figure out, I think, what was really going on with everything that we had. You know, it's like everything was dumped upon us. We basically were deprogramming ourselves from everything that we were learning. And it took a lot of work, and a lot of people had contributed, and a lot of people put effort into trying to figure out like the best handbook, so to speak, on what would be the best way to present this to new people coming in, and to try to lay a groundwork that when people come in and they figure all this stuff out, that people would be able to say, okay, I can start off with video 1 and I can watch the progression all the way to video 300 or whatever. And I think back then, like I said, I think a lot of people were still trying to figure out put our finger on exactly what it was that was going on in the world, and trying to figure out, you know, what is going on with the laws, what is going on with how we need to proceed with this obstacle that has been kind of put in our way. And that takes a lot of work because so much of it is personal and so much of it is emotional too.
Mm.
Here, just a second ago. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, that takes a lot of work to deprogram yourself. It can take many years. You know, some
I
people
agree.
are able to do it. Yeah,
No, I agree absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of the problem, though. I think, I mean, the general public, they just don't want to do that those mental gymnastics. They don't want to visit those dark places in men's hearts. I mean, most people just want to be told, is this good or is this bad? I mean, Joe Public, they want to be silver spoon fed, I think is the best way to put it. There's very, very few men
yeah.
willing to go through those dark places in their minds and really internalize and really ponder on the concepts and on the philosophies that uh, that really are life changing. And there's very few guys that are willing to do that. I mean, if we look at the MGTOW scene as it is now, it's mostly keck. I mean, as Ma puts it, it's mostly guys that come from the skeptic scene, that come from the anti-feminist scene, and everything has to be entertaining. You know, you have to put it in a way that they can swallow with a spoonful of sugar, so to speak. You know, they don't want to hear about how this guy was screwed over in the family courts. They don't want to hear about how this guy spent a year on the streets, trying to pick himself up, or this guy is an alcoholic. They don't want to hear about that. They just want to hear, oh, women are bitches, and men are great, or my particular group is great. That's what people want to hear, and they don't when people come into MGTOW now, they only want to see recent videos. They won't. I mean, it's funny. I still get people thinking I'm BWIGTOW. You remember BWIGTOW? Black women going their own way, because they see this one video of mine, and they think my channel's a BWIGTOW channel. They don't even bother going into looking at the rest of my videos. And it's the same with a lot of other channels. People, they don't even want to look at videos that was like a year old or anything. They just don't want to do that work, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, we have an epidemic of stupidity and ignorance in the world, unlike ever before. And I see it all the time. The ignorance, the stupidity, the complete and total zombified individual on the average public is so far removed from reality and basic common sense that there is. I've contemplated this thought so many times in my head. How do we get through to these people? Is it worth spending my time with these people, or am I rather spend my time with people who have the common sense enough to get it? It's like going up to your dog or your animal or your pets and trying to explain algebra to them. They're not going to get it, because their minds aren't there yet. They don't have that intellectual capability, and we have an epidemic of just ignorance, and that is very dangerous. And that is a result of what happens when you push, unlack of common sense and logical thinking in some capacities, and getting people to just sit down and think about something before they actually say something. And this goes into, people, there's so much instantaneous, people want things instantly. They want it now. They want either a yes or a no, and they don't want to have to consider the fact that, maybe it isn't a yes or no. Maybe it's an in-between thing, and you have to find the middle ground. Because the world is very complex. It's not just a yes or no or black or white. There's always a middle ground to everything, I think. And that middle ground is very complex. It's very undetermined. Basically, it's very different shades of gray and blue and orange. And you have to be able to walk that middle path and stay balanced, because so much of what I see is one extreme or the other. And, this goes into kind of what the world is to now, and it's hysteria. If you've ever read 1984, and I have it pulled up here, there was something called doublethink, and the result of what doublethink was designed to do, and I'll read it straight from the right here. It says that doublethink means the power of holding two contrary beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting them both. The prevailing mental condition is controlled insanity, and that's exactly what the situation, I think, today in people's minds are. People have, gone crazy because it's always one extreme or the other, and there's never the teaching of balance, and having balance in one's life is no longer taught. It's you're either a racist, or you're a Republican, that is for racism, or you're against it. You're either against Muslims or you're not against Muslims. These are just popular, terms that we use these days, automatically pushed in society, and the prevailing mental condition is controlled insanity, and I think that's what we see.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that goes along with my with my perception that people, they just want to be told, is this a good person? Is this a bad person? Is this good for me? Is that bad for me? It's never more complicated than that. It's either on or it's off, and I think that is a problem. And it goes, and it goes further. In the question further goes, into that maybe this is why our governments are the way they are. If you look at how the government is, they are very black and white. George Bush famously said, you're either with us or you're against us. So you're either killing people with us, or we're going to consider you as one of the attackers. It's very, very black and white. And obviously this polarizing type of an attitude if the general public are like this, and if you remember a couple of years ago when we were doing the early podcasts, we were saying that. We were saying when MGTOW gets big, when the manosphere, or when MGTOW concepts start getting more popular, Marcus calls them the nether apes, and the nether apes will start coming in. These guys that want to be spoon fed. Is this a good person? Is this a bad person? And now this is what we're starting to see. We're starting to see this flood of zombified, spoon feed me type of people coming in, and it begs the
Yeah.
question. Maybe this is why our society is the way it is. Maybe this is why our government put so much legislation on us. Put so much um, uh, legislation and laws on us, because we're that kind of society. Control us, tell us what to do. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you're right. Everything in our society has been orchestrated for what they call the Hegelian dialectic, which is, in short terms, it is the illusion that one person is against the other, but in reality, it means they're working to achieve a common goal. And what they've taught in schools and what they've taught in the general public is that there's like one thing I remember when I was in school, I was in school and 9/11 happened. I remember I was sitting in the classroom and then it happened, and then the teacher came in and everybody was, freaking out over it. And since that day, I remember reading in textbooks them talking about, USA is the good guy, and then the terrorists are the bad guy. They teach the foundation. The foundations have been laid since school and since you were born in this world, that there's a good guy, there's a bad guy. And is that you can always manipulate the bad guy and the bad guy for being the good guy all the time. So however they want to get people to go along with whatever narrative they want to push,
Yes, right.
because sit down and figure out who really is the bad guy, it requires common sense and logic, and you have to take time to think about it. And that's the problem with that, because people don't have that anymore. I mean, you can barely get people now to, like you were saying earlier, it's like you make a video talking about one thing and then automatically people assume that that's what you are. And when you're just simply stating something, it doesn't mean that you're for it or against it. You're just stating an opinion. That principle of staying in between the lines is not taught. It's so foreign to people. And that's a big problem, because that in order to do, to kind of walk in between the lines and to have balance with these thoughts of what we see in the world, like Republican versus Democrat, or this person against that person, this political candidate against that political candidate. They only give you two options. It's either you're for this person or you're for that person. It's like, well, what if I'm not for either? Into a whole nother category, and it's usually a negative opinion on that person, because that's what the matrix is all about. That's the term I always use, is the matrix is designed so that, the best way to look at this is like the political thing, right? We have red and blue. Well, red and blue can be looked at like an energy source, positive and negative. Well, when you get people, when you have a bunch of energy funneling into a positive and then the negative, what do you create? You create a charge. And so what they're doing is that they're trying to create in the news and in political, commentary and all these threats of war, threats of nuclear stuff, threats of this, threats of that. They're trying to create people to get really agitated. And the result of what has happened is hysteria. In this, especially here in the USA, we see that all the time. People are hysterical. They are crazy. And so what happens is they feed off of negative emotions, because when you can manipulate somebody by their emotions, and that's a big weakness I think we have. Not the fact that we have emotions, but the fact that we allow our emotions to be manipulated by these people. And that's exactly how they work it, because what was going on with let's take a more let's point this out with MGTOW. What they do is they push the feminist agenda, and they know that anybody that realizes that is so outrageous about what they speak of, how men should be killed and fuck them and divorce and screw them if they get if a man's homeless, then screw them. They play on our emotions that way because they know that we will respond. And when we respond, they can manipulate that response, because they're already on the winning side of it, because they're the ones who implemented it to begin with. And that's the whole system. It's just like the Matrix. They are turning you into a battery by feeding into the negative energy that they put out there in the news and stuff.
At this point, let's take a controversial statement from a Mr. Anus, who says that things won't change. Things won't change until men start killing bad women without a thought to consequences. No consequences. And the only marriages or mating of our white race is with Asians or other quality women. Now the thing why I am not for killing or for slaughter or for genocide, removing the emotional side of it. I mean, if we can just cast aside the emotional side of it. The thing is, a society is made out of people. Now, when you start destroying or killing the fabric of your society, you see, you start to destroy the very purpose of the human race. And what I mean by that is, if you start killing people because there's a problem, you never get to the root of the problem. You never solve that problem. How do you
Yeah.
know along the lines that the next generation isn't going to be like that? Or in 100 years' time, you're going to get the same problem with which you slaughtered all those people for. It's like when I first started getting into computing when I was like a teenager. I bought my first PC, and I remember I started getting problems with it, and then I constantly had to reinstall my Windows. So I was constantly wiping my drive and reinstalling my Windows. Eventually, I realized that I had to learn what the problem with Windows was, or what the problem that I was doing, so that I wouldn't have to keep reinstalling. And that's the same with people. If every time there's something, what you think is something wrong with people, if every time you think there's something wrong with people and you kill those people, what's to say that that problem won't occur again? So then the killing goes on and on and on, and you
Yeah,
never ever
exactly. And
solve the problem.
that's exactly right, because everything that they, let me see how I can phrase this. The thing is, the situation that we're facing in the world today, and I was actually thinking about this last night, I was talking to myself, trying to figure out how I would say this today. And here's the thing: the situation we face is very complex. In many ways, what we are dealing with is a spiritual aspect of what's going on. We are in a spiritual war, so to speak, because it's not actually, so to speak, it's what it is, because we're not just we don't just get up and we eat food and we go to work and that's the existence of our life here. It's so much more complex than that. And when we take a look at the fabric of reality and what makes up, why are we here, and we start asking these questions, it starts to lead into the spiritual aspect of why all that is. And it's a very complex, complicated thing. And when we start to go into, well, how do we fix the problem? Not just materialistic stuff, it's also spiritual stuff too. And that is something that isn't taught, because everybody's got their different view on what they view as spiritual. And when I mean spiritual, I don't mean this new agey crap. That's what I don't even like using that term spiritual, because that's the immediate association that most people think of is, love and light, and we have to sing Kumbaya and channel our chakras and all this crap. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other aspect of reality that we know it as being. The thing that makes our heart beat and makes us animated. That's our spiritual side of ourselves. That's the thing that really isn't of just the physical world. And so we're dealing with the spiritual aspect of this problem as well. I mentioned on my channel a while back in regards to what's happening with women today, and I mentioned that there is the spirit of Jezebel. It's a negative energy. It's a bad spirit, and that's the spiritual side of one aspect of what's going on with the relations between men and women today. And that's something that's happened throughout history, that have been talked about many, many times throughout history, is this negative energy that is always seems to be bringing itself up throughout past civilizations and past things that have gone on. That's the spiritual side. There's a physical side and there's a spiritual side. The physical side of what it's about is making the movements and agendas like the feminist agenda, the political stuff behind the feminist agenda, seeing the political candidates talk about all that. That's the physical side of it. That's the workings of it. But I think ultimately the root cause of it is a spiritual problem. But of fixing the problem and the person that commented about that point, it is very complex, because if we just simply say, you know what, we're just going to go out and eliminate everybody, and that's just what we're going to do. Well, like you said, if we go out and we do that, we're just killed off half the population. Well, who's going to replace that? What's going to happen there? You can't just simply go in there and say, you know what, like if you have cancer and you have cancer of the brain, organ, well, we're just going to cut out half the brain. Okay, well, what if part of the cancer is in the motory sensor part of the brain? Well, now you could paralyze yourself. You see, there's a give and there's a take, and you have to know that fine line. And it's a very complicated thing to just simply put into a few words. Go run and get that package now, but I'll be back in like less than like 10 minutes or so. So, guys, I got to go run and do something real quick. I'll be right back, and I'll continue this. And if Shani, you want to carry it back, and I'll run and go get that real quick, and I'll be right back.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, we'll speak to
right.
Element. We'll speak to you when you get back, Element. Yeah, I mean, I've always said that the human being is not only a intellectual side, emotional side, and his physical side, but I've always said that there's a part of him which the only way to describe would be a spiritual side. And as Element was trying to allude to, it doesn't mean the spiritual side as commonly known, that is some airy fairy, as he puts it, kumbaya, but it's a side to the human being that I think what Element was trying to say, that most motivates him, that brings out the creativity in him, that that gives him this thirst and this lust for life. I think that's something that we do neglect. I mean, if you just feed a man's body, you give him nutrition. I mean, is he a human being at that? I mean, if you just teach him mathematics and your average generic education, I mean, is he a human being like that? I think there's more to a man than just his physical, mental, and emotional side. I would say there's also his spiritual side, which is, I think, one of the most neglected parts of society. And we're joined by Joe. How are you, Traversable? How's life?
Hey, Shiny, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear, so.
Oh, cool. Sometimes I don't get the little dots. I don't know why I don't get the dots. But yeah, there's so much more than men and to fulfill us than just this. In society, most of the time, for women to fulfill a woman, it's usually window dressing, and that's what society takes to, all the window dressing, all the happy products, and the and in the going to the movies and take the restaurants and all that. But for men, we usually find that it's something deeper in our souls that we need to fulfill, like climb a mountain or do something successful, like you said, some spiritual thing that you just know that it's hard to follow, but you're there and you're on course and you're right. There's things to men that I think most women don't understand, and it's almost like we did this total research project for 2,000 years on women, and we forgot the research men, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. I mean, just yourselves. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, I mean, if you take two men, I mean, one guy, I mean, the two of them, they can go through exactly. And I know you guys have heard me say this before. Those that watch my channel, two guys can go through exactly the same experience, and the two will get exactly the opposite out of it. For example, a man can look at a sunset, and to him, it's just the day getting a bit darker. But to another man, it's something beautiful. It's something wonderful. You know, I'm reminded of that guy, the double rainbow man. You remember that crazy video?
Oh yeah, the double rainbow guy. Yeah,
That
that was
guy,
funny.
he was so emotional, and of course nobody else could see it. It was something inside him, something, for lack of better words, something spiritual inside him that really, I mean, I'm trying to explain it the best way I can, something which is often neglected in our society. But this guy, he was looking at something that we could all see, but
Yeah.
only he could feel it. You know, this, and obviously this motivated him to get his life back on track. I don't know if you watched the video explaining that, but he actually said he was going through a very emotional and depressing time. He was actually suicidal, and then he saw the double rainbow scene, and as cheesy as it sounds,
Yeah.
that motivated him, you know, to clean his life up, to take those necessary steps to you know, to give him a better, uh, a better lifestyle. But it's just things like that, you know. It's something that is very difficult to explain, but I think it's a very necessary and essential part of men.
Yeah, sometimes our lives are very dark. You know, we do dark things. We go to work, we settle back in. You know, it's the shower, do your laundry, go to sleep, go to work, shower, do your laundry, gets up to eat, go to sleep. You know, and our lives get very dark. Sometimes, to break out of that, you know, I always promote going outside, going to the park, you know, walking around. Put those car keys away for a little bit and walk to the store and meet your neighbors and stuff like that. Nowadays society, most men, you know, it's that repetitive pattern of, I mean, you can almost watch a guy in the morning, he'll get up, he'll jump into his pants, and you know, take a shower, jump into his clothes, walk right into his shoes as he's walking out to his car, and his car almost drives him to work, and it gets so repetitive, you know. And that's what you
Mm.
feel like. It's just, you're not fulfilling some ancient need in your soul, you know.
Well, now you're here, Trav, I thought we could get your views on the next topic, which me and Ellen are going to talk about, which is the public perception of men's forms. I mean, now that, and I think it's clear, I don't think anyone's going to deny that MGTOW, that the manosphere, that men's issues are now becoming very popular. I mean, you're getting big time feminists, big time YouTube feminists. They're now jumping on board what they call the red pill, which,
Oh
as
yeah.
me and you know, is total bullshit. They haven't taken any sort of a thing, but
No.
it's just an indication of how popular men's issues is, how popular the label MGTOW is. And obviously, with that comes the negativity as well. Those feminized men, those simps, those manginas, is as we call them, how they see MGTOW. Obviously, we get the names that we know. We get called gay. We get called yeah. Obviously,
Right.
the racist thing is coming in, because obviously we get our racist uh, borders, don't we? And we are getting that type of that cultural involvement now. I mean, I
Right.
did say this years ago that MGTOW would be would eventually become a cultural thing. So.
Yeah, yeah. I think I put it up before that we get the simps and the manginas coming around and the guys on the dating scene and everything like that. And they don't understand that MGTOW is not these things that others men's groups are. You know, the KEK, the anti-feminism, the skeptic atheist thing, that's all in that other side of the manosphere that seems it's fun and games around there, and it's all playtime for them, and there's some entertainment value in it.
Mm.
Uh, MGTOW's not about that. It's about you know, what we talked about earlier, the men's soul. It's about the men, uh, the you know, the human condition. It's that men have been put into all the, you know, the slavery situations and the work and just awful situations. They think it's all about that anti-feminism keck, and it's become popularized. But there
Mm.
seems to be that that modem, or that modus, or, you know, preposendi, that there's this modem that they have to follow to be in that group. You know, it's It's the you know, say how bad feminism is, and show a girl falling off into a lake and then laugh at her. You know
Yeah,
that
it's all become rather generic. I know exactly what you
yeah
mean. The original message is gone. The original trying to promote men's well-being, trying to improve men's, especially those that really need it. I mean, come on, me and you have been there. We've been really, really down. You know, we've been, you know, our morale has been right into the gutter. I mean, some guys they really, really need this, and
yeah
that gets
yeah
lost in the keck, in the skeptic, in the you know,
yeah. No,
in the
that's
entertainment business.
yeah, that's popularized men's rights, which is just a controlled opposition when we see how it really works. You have these big groups out there now uh, that do men's rights, but they forget to do fathers' rights, and there's no working on that. There's just you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars coming their way. Someone just did a video today on the humongous guy.
The humongous guy. You mean the YouTube channel or the actual humongous guy from Mad
Yeah,
Max?
the humongous guy. You know, he made $136,000 from that.
You know, you
He got
see,
yeah, $136,000 from donations for just like saying I'm Hugh and humongous in a kecky way.
you see what I see the results on this is I see all the guys that put the 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 intellectual effort that put all the you know, put all the work in the early days. You see
Yeah,
those guys abandoning the label. We see those guys abandoning YouTube. And really, I know you've heard me say it before, guys, but really, this is not the time to do it. You know, this is the time where you need to keep nurturing the ideas. You need to be a lot more patient with the guys that are coming in. You know, whether they're making mistakes out of ignorance or they're just idiots. I
yeah,
don't think you should abandon the philosophy at this point because yeah, I agree, and I know a lot of you guys listening will have seen it. The entire purpose and the very point of the uh, philosophy of MGTOW is gone at this point. It is gone, and really for you to abandon it, you don't help at all. You remember that video I made? It was I was appealing. I think I labeled it to MGTOW channels and to MGTOW viewers, and this is
mhm,
exactly what I said. You know, it's so long as the situation, so long as the gynocentric situation or the misandric circumstances exist, you need to keep working. You know, until that's gone, you know, you've got no excuse to abandon your post, as you say, Joe. Know your station.
know your station. Yeah, yeah. We're getting a lot of different kinds of guys, and most of our detractors, as I call them most of the time, is just that they're the guys that want to do that anti-feminist kick. Whatever it is, I have a hard time putting my finger on it, and they want to argue with everybody like they're inventing something in their head, and they want you to be that made up devil's advocate, and they think they're right, and then it's the sort of that Sargon syndrome where he calls all of his viewers idiots, and every one of his viewers think that he's calling the other guy an idiot.
You see, I mean, when Element gets back, I'm sure this will be a topic you'll be interested in. But personally, I think that the government are not stupid. I think the government know
Right.
society better than we do. I think the government have some of the best think tanks. Yeah, they make some of the worst decisions, but the fact is, they've got resources, they've got manpower, they've got everything on their side. Uh, but my point is that perhaps our situation was engineered that all this has happened: gynocentrism, male disposability, you know, the
Mhm.
destruction of the male role model, the death of the father, the you know, everything that's happening now politically. I think the government has done it on purpose, personally. I think because they've done it because they sort of analysed what kind of a nation we are. They sort of predicted
Yeah.
how we'd act or react to certain situations and certain circumstances, and it's pretty clear. You know, the government, they manipulate or they control the narrative, the mainstream media,
Hmm.
and I would argue that a lot of it, if not most of it, is by the government's design. I mean,
Yeah, it's social engineering.
if you look, our governments, the UK and the US, and I'm quite safe to say the Canada and Australia, our government hasn't changed in decades, if not centuries. We've always had the same demagogues, the hedonistic, elitist,
Yeah.
you know, selfish at the top. It's you know, it's been the same for centuries, and there's the only way that could happen is if the people on top clung to power by you know, by design, not by accident.
Yeah.
So I think gynocentrism was purposefully engineered by the government. I think male
Right. Yeah,
disposability.
they got their, they got their cake and they're eating it too. In one way, gynocentrism as everybody got to pick up and take care of the girls, and that's fine because they don't have to pick up and take care of their part. Then, if you got all these men are just going to jump aboard that and do that, then the government has they can use the tax money or whatever they're getting from for different purposes. And then the other side, they have to see that there's a overpopulation problem in the world that's getting very close to being too much.
So that marries up my 2 points.
Yeah.
The public's perception of men's issues and problems, as men's issues and MGTOW goes mainstream, it'll get a more negative, a worse and worse image, due to the fact that by the government's design, we are a feminist society. We are a gynocentric society. So when
Right.
a narrative comes along which contradicts that or seeks to destroy that, it's going to be perceived as a threat. And of course, our
Right.
feminized boys, our single mother society are going to see MGTOW as shit. They're going to see men's issues as irrelevant. They're going to see misandry as a non-starter. So we shouldn't be surprised at the situation we're at. So all those MGTOW guys, which I hope you will at least be listening to my channel, all you old MGTOW channels out there that I used to speak to, you shouldn't be surprised at our situation. You shouldn't be surprised that simps, PUAs, TFLers,
Right.
manginas, white knights are flooding into the MGTOW scene, the men's issue scene, because this is something that I mean, especially if you listen to my stuff earlier on, this is something that you should have predicted a long time ago. Not to sound too, you know, you'll forgive me if I sound too arrogant, but what I'm trying to say is, you know, what else did you think was going to happen? You thought everyone would go MGTOW. You thought it'd all go Social Gdanshi. No, it was going to end up like this. It was never going to be you know, it was never going to be anything other than a fight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And I don't know where MGTOW's. I've been very confused about where MGTOW's going lately. I just don't want it to become like some stale old product like the MRA. Pooning feminism and fighting with that dragon and getting nothing done. Uh,
Well,
I
the way
always I
the
always
way
thought that these men could actually form together, and then they hit us with that big MGTOWs and ideology, not a group thing.
yeah, but that doesn't matter. You see, first of all, you've got to, and this is a very important. This is a very, very important subject. First of all, as men, you need to select your friends. You can't just be
Yeah,
chummy and pally. You can't treat everybody the same. You can't. You can't treat the stranger on the street the same way as you treat your brother. You know, you can't treat the idiot the same way as you treat your peers. You know, we get this shaming tactic laid on us like we're a cult, or
yeah,
we're what's it we're a group, or we're elitist.
yeah.
No, Every man must
Well,
choose his companions very carefully, because the person who you take advice from, the person who you share personal, intimate information with, the
right.
person who you spend time with, you're going to rub off on him, and he's going to rub off on you. So you need to select your friends very, very carefully.
Yeah, well, I often think about this, and I can never articulate it on a video. That what if they would have told the human rights movement of the '60s that you're not a group, you're just an ideology, you know?
The way I've been trying to tackle it, and if you notice, I think a few of us around there, we're not so concerned with labels. You call us whatever you want. Call us MGTOW, call us Monks, call us Emma, call us whatever you want.
Yeah,
We want to discuss the issues at hand here. We want to talk about a society that has no masculinity. We want to talk about a family
right.
that
Yeah,
has no father. We want to talk about a country that has no freedom, but at the same time, uh, 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 claim to be the freest people. We want to talk about this hypocrisy. So long as we're laying out the issues rather than holding on to the label. I think that's the way. That's the best way to tackle these things.
yeah, yeah. We get like all kinds of orbiters, and we get all kinds of what do it's just, some people think like, okay, we'll just, they take like MGTOW as a cognitive therapy group, so I can go out and rage out and then take care of all, and then we get those people in here, like we seen in the chat earlier, is like kill all women, It's like, oh no, no, and it has nothing to do with women. Uh, we try to defend that position, that it has nothing to do with women and it has everything to do with men. Why do they have to confuse those two things? But it's hard to, with the new groups that are coming in, and the younger guys generally, they got their thoughts generally planted firmly on there's got to be a girl in it, there's got to be this in it, and it's like, no, don't even, it's a don't ask, don't tell thing here, MGTOW. We don't talk about such things, because every time they do start talking about such things, it gets it detracts from the real conversation, which is how do we get like homeless men, houses? How do we do this? And then we get sidetracked.
No, I think that's the issue we're always going to have to deal with. The fact that you get this male mother need
Yeah.
syndrome, or these pussy beggars. I mean, these
Oh
TFLers.
God.
They put they put the vagina so high up on the pedestal that they literally base their entire religion around the vagina, and we're always going to get that, because I mean, coming from a society that's so sexualized, that's we call it gynocentrism, but it's uh, if a society that doesn't understand the word gynocentrism, that word's not
They
going to
don't
have the
understand
power.
the word
It's
gynocentrism.
not going to have the power. It's not going to have the impact that you
Yeah.
really you need when you're discussing these things. And
Right.
what we're trying to say is you're ruining your life, or you're wasting your life as a man, as a nation, as a society, chasing pussy. That's basically
Yeah.
what we're trying to say. But obviously,
Yeah. Did you ever read the Wikipedia page on gynocentrism?
I've not read that.
Yeah, go over there someday, and then you'll see an example of gynocentrism perfectly. The Wikipedia page on gynocentrism quotes from it, probably, well, he quotes Dr. Warren Fell, Paul Elam, and then 5 women. That's the accreditations they give. That's fucking gynocentrism. It always got to come from a girl voice.
Yeah. J double G. He comes out with the word gynotheism. That's actually a very, very good term. I think I might actually start using that gynotheism. It is a religion
Gynotheism, yeah.
based around the vagina.
Yeah. Everything's based around. If you don't hear it from some soft, gentle female voice, then it must not be true. That's the female voice that I talk about, and they don't understand. Uh, that's gynocentrism in a nutshell, is when you have a propensity to protect and provide and hear only female voice, and that's why there are so many female school teachers. Uh, it's just everything's based around females, and if it doesn't come in that direction, men don't want to hear it. But but that is gynocentrism in a nutshell. That's what we try to attack. We want to, we want men to be heard, and our grievances to be heard. But no, they're not being heard because everything's so convenient for the government the way it is,
I I think that would that this would be a good point to also add that because people wonder, why do MGTOW channels, fantastic MGTOW channels, why do they pick up sticks and leave? You know, and if you speak to these guys, they'll tell you that they're trying to live the lifestyle that they've been building up to. That we've been trying to discuss. We've been trying to uh, build a life after women, so to speak. And I think if you speak to these ex MGTOW channels or these channels that used to speak about this,
Yeah,
that's what they'll tell you. That they're trying to live it. They're trying to apply all the philosophy and all the ideas that we discuss into their everyday lives. And by contrast, I don't want to say the guy's name, but these TFL classes, these TFL class of men,
yeah, I understand.
they they cannot, they for the life of them cannot understand how a man can live without pussy. There was this guy, you know who I'm talking about. He made this video and he talked about all of us. And he says basically, we're just all sex starved men. We're all pussy starved men. We can't wait to get back in a woman's knickers. There's generally a lot of. I mean, I don't want to pick on this guy, which is why I'm not going to name him, because he's actually, I think he's actually the norm. I think he's actually normal. I think most guys will say, you guys you just butt her and you're just waiting to get back into a girl's knickers. You talk the talk, but as soon as you get a whiff of skirt, you'll be jumping back into what you guys deem the plantation. But
Yeah,
but that's not it at all.
no,
We genuinely we've been there. I've got kids, you've got kids.
yeah.
Your kids are grown up now. We're way past that, and we're trying to leave a healthy, happy life without vagina.
Right. It's just leading a healthy, happy life where you're more engaged with your self interest, which is the human condition. I want to go fishing nowadays. I want to go. I just want to have a good day instead of having that long stream of horrible days that is just nagging, and most of that is just removing the female essence from my life, and then removing all that stuff. And then what do I do? They'll go, oh well, you'll just be sitting at home, and that's it. No, no. What do I do now? Well, I do my bike rides. I take my walks. I go fishing. I go to the park. There's a lot of stuff to do. I go see movies. I go out with my friends, and that's a pleasurable experience. Something I've never in my life, for 20 years there, it was all about just work hard and take care of the girls. You
And
know.
it, and here's my conclusion. Here's my conclusion, guys. If you're ready for it, now I think a lot of you would agree that the government. I mean, a lot of what's happened is by the government's design,
Right.
and I think one of the main components with which the government uses to manipulate society is this gynocentrism. The government knows. I mean, it's a very strong compelling drive is his sexual drive. I mean, you only
Right.
need to
It
see
is.
a
Yeah.
man only needs to see a woman's figure, a woman's partially naked body, and it stirs something up inside of him. And I think the government knows that most guys are like this TFL guy. That you can control it. Guys will do almost anything for pussy. They will. They'll kill people. They'll die. They'll put themselves their own lives at risk. But if men start to destroy this lust, or at least put this lust under control, this will destroy the government's narrative. This will make men or society less malleable. This will make us much more difficult to engineer. And
Right.
this was, I think, one of the big points of MGTOW was that if we as men as a whole start moving away from this government manipulation of men by using their sex drive, we can start going a completely different direction to where the government wants us, or to where gynocentrism is leading us. And let's face it, and nobody's saying that that's a good place. But so long as we've got Simpson vaginas, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, what's going to make that leap? What's going to get guys to actually see that there is a better way? There is uh, an option to the direction where we as a society are heading.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think the government forms it in a way that there is like readily disposable females now in the form of the carousel riders and all that, and they like that idea because we can look at societies like in Yemen, and that's almost 64% male. There's a few countries out there. You look at these things; they're beautiful, beautiful cities. They're built. The guys are working and everything's great, and they're a very rich country and everything. But when you look at the percentage of men, it's very high. So they kind of get an idea now in the United States. The thirst is so bad. You get this ideology of what they talk about a lot, and it's just sexualized. It's a sexualized society where one girl may be with 300, 400 men in her lifetime. We don't try. I just don't understand that kind of attitude with these thirsty guys. I just don't understand. Is that so important? As we know, we know as a MGTOW, and you as a MGTOW and everything. Once you find your inner self and the importance and your value in life, a lot of things just don't matter anymore.
Okay, let's head towards the chat again. Captain of a starship, shout out to him. Always nice to hear
Who's in the
from
chat?
him.
Captain Starship. Oh yeah, I talked to him earlier. I watched his video early. I think he put
He
up one.
says that the government enforces what the people do. It's the people. I think
Yeah.
I think the government fear a rebellion. Every government wants to stay in power by almost any means. But I think for the government, what one of their best, or one of one of their little systems that they deploy is they give you the illusion of choice. So as Element said earlier, you can choose the Democrats or the Republicans, or in the UK it's the Labour or the Tories.
I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Took
then,
a little bit longer than I expected.
so then the government make it look like they're listening to you, but in the end they do what they want. I mean, the best example is our leaders. I mean, every 4 years America gets a different president. Every 4 years the UK gets a different prime minister, but the laws are the same. The problems are the same. Everything's still the same.
The government's going
we
to
get illusion of
listen to the
control.
people, but they're going to do what's in their self-interest.
Yeah. So did you pick up your machine, Element?
Yeah, I picked it up. Yeah, got my exaggeratedly expensive cappuccino machine. Not really.
So
I
really
didn't buy one. I'm just kidding. I didn't. I ordered something from Amazon, and so I had to go pick it up. There's a distribution center near me, so I can just go pick it up without having it, shipped to my house. So
cool.
Well, let's just get this clear. Did you buy a coffee machine or not?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't buy one.
I
don't drink coffee.
Like a reasonable priced one. That was if you put.
Joseph.
Yeah, I was making a.
You're going.
How the coffee, like the espresso machines, are like they can run up to like several $1,000s.
Oh yeah,
that's just crazy. I was watching a company's YouTube video, and their most expensive espresso machine is £5,000. That's about $7,000. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
maybe you could buy a car with that much money.
Oh yeah. Well, they got the stainless steel, the double racks, the water holder. It grinds your coffee for you. It goes out. It picks the coffee. It grinds it for you. Brings it home and then roasts it. And
You know, I've been listening to you, Joe, talk about coffee these past few years, and I finally got my coffee machine. Yeah,
Did you?
hallelujah. Yeah,
Oh,
and I realized all it is a what is a kettle. It's just a warming machine. Now the thing is, you can roast your own coffee, so you don't need a
you
machine
can.
to do it. You can grind your own coffee. You don't need a machine to
Yes,
do it.
you can roast your own coffee, you can grind your own coffee. That's what I'm saying. That's when it becomes a pleasurable
And
experience.
then, after I bought the machine, I'm watching all these videos of people doing that. So I didn't need to buy a machine. I've realized all this time, all I need to do was buy the beans.
Yeah, you buy the
What,
green beans and they're
what a
half the price
complete
then.
waste of what a complete waste of time I did. I spent all these years investigating coffee machines and espressos and percolators and pressurized crushed beans and stuff. And all I needed to do was to buy the raw beans, stick it in the oven or stick it on a dry pan
Yeah,
until they're nice and black, grind
yeah,
them up to a powder, and then just filter it into my own cup without any
yeah.
need for any electricity, nothing. I,
Yeah, the
I
great part about that is like you once you learn the differences, like you make it how you want it now, not how some guy at the factory did it for you.
now, I've been experimenting these past few days, and and the variety, the variety of flavor, the
Yeah,
intensity of the coffee can vary. It varies so because all these years I've been drinking granulated freeze dried coffee from the jar, the Nescafe, your Red Mountain, all
yeah,
that stuff, and obviously that's pretty all was very same, very generic. Generic. They pretty much taste all the same anyway. Organic or inorganic, Maxwell House and all that stuff.
yeah.
But when you buy your own beans, the intensity of the coffee changes with the duration with which you roast it and how much you roast. I mean,
Right, the
first
timing.
time I did it,
Yeah, you could do it
yeah,
with time. You could do short. You can change your heats from yeah, you change your heats from 380 to 440. Anywhere between that, you could do a longer roast or a shorter roast, and the coffee has different flavors every time you do that. Or you can burn it and make a French or an Italian or a Vienna.
yeah. You
Uh,
but you know the first time I did it, it was it, I crushed it as soon as it started to change color. Now
okay.
I
Oh,
can
nice.
I can see it in your head.
Yeah, a
That's
nice
gonna be
light.
far too weak.
Yeah, a nice a breakfast blend. I do a breakfast blend, but here's the thing: out of the same bag of coffee, you get the green beans. You could take a breakfast blend off, then you can take a city roast off, and then you could take a Italian roast, a French roast, a Vienna roast off, and then you can get it right up to a really a real French roast and all that, and you can have six different kinds of coffee.
Yeah, what Joe means is the darker you roast. I mean, the third time I did it, I literally burned it. It was black,
Yeah,
and I drank it, and it was so strong. I was up all night.
it was good,
I,
huh?
I'm looking at a there's a coffee machine I found here on Amazon. It's called a Jura Geiga. It's an
Okay,
X7 Professional. It's $8,998.
$8,000. You know, I've never spent over $40 from a coffee machine, and the ones I have, I like. I just buy them secondhand or a rebuilt one, and I, it does the same thing. And once you learn how to do it, and you get a French press, or you can get a press now for $40 that you do a hand press on it, and
but
it's just an espresso machine. But you don't have to do coffee too if you got an espresso machine. What I do once in a while is I'll get I just bought some Assam tea, and then so I get my tea and I put cardamom in it and nutmeg and what do you call that? It's like they call that this when you put all the spices in there, a chai tea, and then you can make yourself a chai tea latte in the same coffee machine.
yeah, I mean, I'll probably go back to tea in a couple of
Yeah,
weeks after I've gotten bored, the novelty's worn off. I'll
yeah.
probably
But
drink
I
tea and
always
just
use
have it.
you know, I talk about it a lot because I use it as an analogy most of the time of doing it the MGTOW way you want to see it done. You know. And
But
you
just
do that with everything in your life. You after you get rid of the females in your life, you start picking your own soap. You start picking what towels you want. And as you walk on to living, you pick your own chair. You pick how you want your coffee or how you want your sandwich made, how even you want your eggs made in the morning. All those little things add up to a better human condition, doesn't it? The
well,
car you want to drive, if you want to drive a motorcycle, if you want to ride a bike, you could do that now. No one's telling you have to do anything else.
before I forget, I just want to tell everybody what I learned this week, and that's the darker you roast the bean, the stronger it is.
The stronger it gets. Yeah, yeah,
And
it
that's
does. It
so
gets that. I don't
it's
think it gets
insanely
more
simple.
caffeinated.
It,
It
it
doesn't get more
yeah,
caffeinated. It just gets the oil comes to the outside of the bean then,
yeah, yeah.
and
It, it's just
and
it's just so simple, but I think a lot of people don't know it. A lot of people won't realize that if it's green, it's not going to get you're not going to get the same potency as when it's
no.
black.
Yeah. Did the first time you did it, did you like how bad coffee smells when it's roasting? It don't smell like coffee, does it?
It was no, it was very, very, very light. You know,
Pungent and
it was the first time I made the coffee. It was green.
oh, you left it at green. Now that's a health food thing. Now, if you mix the coffee and you roast it up, green, very light, and then you grind it and you make like a tea out of it. A lot of people are doing that as a healthy alternative to. So I don't know why they do it. There's supposed to be some antioxidants left in it.
Yeah, it's a learning process,
It's a learning process,
but
but
yeah, it was.
it's more really about it's about enjoying your moments. You know, those little moments that I'm sitting on my stand in my kitchen, and I'm just sitting there in the morning, and I just relax, and it's exactly what I want to see when I look down. You know, everything's
What?
exactly the way I want it.
Okay, all right, yeah. So sorry, Joe, but now we've got Element back.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
let me go check my dinner. I got to do that. I'm burning my dinner right now.
yeah,
I'll be right back.
you go sort that out. Is I think it's got pie and chips, and what's that thing? Black pudding. Is Joe.
Oh, black pudding's really good. That stuff's great.
But now you hear Element, I don't think the guys would forgive me if I didn't ask you about the social engineering. Uh, if because who said it? I think it was Captain of the Starship. He said that it's less the government's design and more the people's design. And I was saying that the government only give the people an illusion of say they only give the people an illusion of
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. It's true. You know, we look at, sorry about that. I just accidentally muted myself. Yeah, I mean, we going back to the point of the Hegelian dialectic. It's the illusion that one party is actually fighting against the other, but in reality, it's just two sides of the same coin behind the scenes, creating the illusion of, you know, the opposition. You know, like, you know, John Doe is fighting Jane Doe in the election, and it's just like, no, it's not like that. It's that's for the general public's consumption, because the whole system has been based upon the fact that, you know, there's one side against the other. Because if you told people, hey, you know, and some people know this and some people don't want to admit it, you know, and that's how they get people. Like, if you told them, hey, did you know that these like Jane Doe and John Doe are actually working together behind the scenes, and that everything that they're telling you on the news saying that, oh, you know, that Jane Doe said that John Doe had a sexual assault claim on her. And in reality, they went behind the scenes and said, hey, you know, this is what we're going to do. You're going to say that I gave you a sexual assault, because what's going to happen is when they put that stuff on the news, people are not, we're going to get a deal with the news company, and the news company is going to boost their ratings. And so we're going to get a little bit of money out of that deal. We're going to get some money out of the newspaper articles. We're going to get some more attention. And we're going to be able to manipulate all those different platforms to create the illusion that we're actually against each other. But we know that we're not doing that. That's the Hegelian dialectic. And what they do is, from one side or the other, they go back and forth and back and forth. And if you think about it like a timeline, from timeline here to timeline, you know, 2 years down the road, they're slowly moving down the timeline by going, you know, because in America, it's, they elect a Republican, and then they elect a Democrat, then they elect a Republican, and then they elect a Democrat, and nobody seems to get it. I think it's because they don't want to see that. You know, they don't want to think that it's all rigged, it's all a joke, and everybody's been lied to. They can't come to that term. They want to believe the lie, because they sell the lie so well that you can't refuse to. And so, like, here's a great example of this. The last recent election we had, you know, it was Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. they put the narrative out there that the woman was so bad, and yeah, she's corrupt, because guess what? All politicians are corrupt. It's nothing new, but they hyped it up so much that that anybody with common sense and wanted to see freedom and they wanted to see things get better, they automatically were designated to vote for the person that is now in office, because they made it so bad, you know. And so what they've done is they've swayed the whole public's opinion by making it so bad, because people know that they don't want to, you know, they don't want to live in a bad society. You know, people want to see things do well and people want to live well. But when you put the illusion or the narrative that things are so bad that you absolutely are not going to vote for that person, then they've already swayed your opinion. And so this is what ends up happening. And I don't mean to get political, but this is a great example of what this topic and discussion is all about. So let's say, for example, you know, and I'm not going to mention their name because of legality reasons, and you know how that stuff goes. But let's just say a president is in office right now, and the media is painted such a bad picture on the person that, let's say, for example, because they've put the narrative out there that the person is so awful, and they've swayed the public's opinion to say that, you know, hey, you know, everything that the mainstream media says, everything that the articles write about this person, and everything that the people say bad about this person is automatically designated to become a lie, because they have because they've pushed that narrative in the media. The person can then have a cover, you know, they have a shadow if they wanted to push the agenda forward, because anything that, even if they did come out and tell the truth, and because the truth is not something people want to hear, they're never going to believe it. So that means that basically what they can do is continue the agenda as long as they needed to, because they've created the narrative that anything that is told via any of these platforms is bad because they painted a bad picture. Now they can go through the narrative, because even if they do tell the truth, they'll never believe it. Do you see how this works? They can do this all the time. And this is the problem, and this is what people don't really like to think about, you know. And it's a very controversial subject to talk about, because they have always, throughout history and time again, created the illusion of choice. And this is why you have to walk the straight and narrow path. You can't get pulled to one extreme or the other, because that's the whole system. That's why there's red and blue and Republican versus Democrat, because they always want to get people to be in one extreme or the other, because when you can get people to be on one extreme or the other, then you can manipulate them the way that they need to be. But if you walk a straight and narrow path, and you don't have you know, you're not for one or the other, then what are they going to do about it? Because the whole system is based upon that. You see what I'm saying?
To the credit of Captain of a Starship, I mean, I did say earlier that the one thing governments do fear, probably more than anything else, is revolution. I think when the people en masse turn against the government, that I think at that point, that's when the government have to go on red alert. And I think that's when, and here's a crazy thought here, that's when the government invent a war, or they invent a boogeyman, or they invent a Joker to the Batman, or a some boogeyman that all people can fear and hate. And here's a crazy thought: what if you were able to create a war where whoever won, you would still win. Like there's a no lose situation for you. So if side A kills side B, you're still in the you're still winning. And if side B kills side A, then you still profit. So if you were able to do that, if you were able to manipulate the circumstances, if you were able to bring that about, and surely a world government, surely um, maybe a nation as big as America, or even bigger. If it's not America, maybe it's some organization, some group that's pulling the strings. If they were able to do that, wouldn't that be a crazy theory? What do you think, guys? Is it possible?
Well, I think that if you look and read the book 1984, here's a great example of this. When you see mainstream news, we know that they lie all the time. So if they can lie about mainstream news, what else do you think they're lying about? You know, in 1984, they talked about how there was this big war going on. And what they ended up actually doing was they isolated the whole city of Oceana so that you were not allowed to go outside of the city. If you did, you'd get arrested and a whole bunch of. And one of the reasons about why they wanted to segregate people in that area is because the whole war that they talked about in this book was all a lie. What they ended up doing was they would take bombs and they would drop them in an empty field outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so people would hear the bombs going off and they go, oh my God, there's a war going on. But in reality, they were dropping their own bombs as to create the illusion that there was a war going on, to create and maintain the illusion that they needed to interact agendas at play so that they could interact more control, which was the ultimate goal.
Right.
And I'll let your mind run with that with current events, and you can kind of see that you can't trust anything anybody says anymore. That's the point.
You see, if we think about it, it's a very, very minute number of people that are ruling the billions. If you think about it, if you're in power, you want to stay in power. Like if we run with this thought, if you're in power, and our governments, our society, how to put it, our our nation have been around for centuries. You know, the West has been around for centuries, and if you were in power and your population was growing to the point where you would start, maybe you was like, for every one leader you rule over 1,000 people, and it becomes 10,000, and now it's becoming millions. So for every ruler, you now rule over millions. It would become increasingly difficult to control them. It would only take a very, very small fraction of people to overthrow you, and we've seen this, like, for example, with the SARS of Russia, with many countries where it only took a small fraction of people, and due to the size of the population, they overthrew the government. Now, if you was a government and you saw that happening, what would be the best way to keep the people under control? The best way would be to turn the people against each other.
Fair.
Black, white, atheist, believers. If you turn the people, using fear, these guys are the dangerous people. These people are the dangerous people.
Right.
And I think, and I might be going out on a limit, I might get kicked out of MGTOW for saying this, but I think that the women have been purposefully turned against the men. I think that the women have been used as a tool. Gynocentrism has been purposely engineered as a control mechanism for society. I mean, if you split the
Right.
genders
Well,
right down the middle, there's no bigger gap than that. I mean, it's worse than black skin versus white skin. It's worse than theist versus atheist. It would be the biggest split in mankind, male and female.
yeah, and now with this new gynocentrism thing in this sense, and now that I heard it on the David Arini podcast the other day, and I hear this echoed and all the time. It gives these people the ability to dehumanize people that they think are less, or it may be a crazy thought in their head, but everybody has that same ability to think everybody else is less, because we don't see most of the people around us. I can't see 6 billion people on this planet. So what he said is, he said, he said, I want a war because I want to send all these people that he perceives as not being as good as him, and that's what they often use, that fallacy, that if you were just like me fallacy, and because somehow these people are less, and he said, I want to send all those people to war. But women have that ability too now, with the right to vote and everything, and it's like it matters nothing to them. And I see this cruelness and this emptiness in these people. They're willing to, let's start a new war here, and it'll just be the poor kids and the brown people that will send.
I think I think everyone's been played against each other. I think
Yeah,
black has been
because they have the right to dehumanize a
white.
certain.
yeah, atheists has been played against theists. The Christians have been played against Muslims. Muslims have been played against Jews. I think everybody's been played against each other because those people in power are clinging onto power by the jurisdiction that we will use them as the arbitrator. So when two parties go to war within a nation, then we depend upon a judicator. The judicator being the guys already in power. So whereas last year we were talking about, you know what, things are really shitty. We could do a lot better. You guys in power, you're keeping everything to yourselves, and you're not doing your what you was elected to do. And now this year we're talking about immigrants, we're talking about religious wars, we're talking about invading yet another country, talking about spending more on military, because now all of a sudden we need the government again. We need a military. We need a strong leader. We need a strong military. Whereas a couple of years ago we were talking about uh, healthcare, education, transport, housing. I think we are being played against each other, and we see it played out here. Men have been played against other men, and I think women are just a small part of it. In that, they're quite easy to control. Women will just follow the masses.
Yeah, well, let me give you an example. I'm going to read this thing off of Orwell Today, and this has to do with what you're talking about with people being played off against each other. There's a subject called newspeak, and it says the whole aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought. And it says here that it was intended that when newspeak had been adopted once and for all, the old speak forgotten, a heretical thought, that is, a thought deriving from the principles of Ingsoc or English socialism, should be literally unthinkable. And it said here that at least so far as thought is dependent on words, its vocabulary was so constructed as to give an exact and often very yet subtle expression to every meaning that the party could possibly wish to express, while excluding all other meanings and also the possibilities of arriving at them by indirect methods. This was done by the invention of new words, chiefly by eliminating undesirable words and by stripping such words remained of unorthodox meaning. The words free still existed in newspeak, but could only be used in such statements as, this dog is free from lice, or this field is free from weeds. It could not be used in the old sense of politically free or intellectually free, since political and intellectual freedom no longer existed even as concepts, and were therefore of necessity nameless. Newspeak words were divided into vocabulary A, B, and C. And the whole point of this was that if you can rename the meaning of words and concepts of words, then you rewrite the meaning of history. Because if one word means something else, then another word means, if you can rewrite that word just like it was saying with using the word free. Now, how do you take that and apply it today? Well, what do we see going on? Well, a great example of this would be how the term liberal and Democrat and socialist has been associated with what we know as a specific kind of person. And when you can manipulate words and the meaning of words and make them trendy and all this crap, then what you end up having is newspeak. And that's exactly what we have. And so basically the whole point of what they're doing is to basically narrow the meaning and alter the meaning of words. And this goes into not just words, but it goes into people's behaviors too. Because when people define something as being good or bad or this or that, well, how do you know what's good or what's bad when it's been rewritten? You see how much of a cluster F it can be?
That's right.
Yeah, the use of pejoratives has always been part of the government from McCarthyism up to today. People use, they'll just deem something a pejorative, and that'll get a nasty meaning. It's like today, I often laugh when I hear it, the liberal. And liberal used to mean as short as 20 years ago as somebody that researches and does the investigation and has an open, honest idea about both sides. But now it's a bad word. It's a pejorative now. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
I want to pick up on Captain of Starship. He's on fire tonight. He makes another good point, and I think this was the point he was trying to make earlier. He's saying that I think what he's trying to say is the people. If government was removed and people were left to their own devices, we would go back to square one again. We would form our own government, and we'd have the we'd have the same problems as we have today. So people need to change. Captain of a Starship, I totally agree. If you read my channel description, that's what I say in my channel description. People will get the leaders they deserve. Until we change as a people, we're never going to solve this problem of always putting idiots over us. And yeah, absolutely. How do we move on? How do we evolve beyond a people that keep on putting all our hopes and all our future on the very few? I mean, this is the big question now. I mean, how do we move
I think it's a great it's a great way to put it, is that, you know, here in this little paragraph, I'll read one more paragraph out of this, is that it says, and this is funny because it says, by the year 2050, earlier probably, all knowledge of old speak will have disappeared. The whole literature of the past will have been destroyed. Shakespeare, Milton, Braun, they existed only in newspeak versions, not merely changed into something different, but actually changed into something contrary of what they used to be. Even the literature of the party will change. Even the slogans will change. How could you have a slogan like freedom is slavery when the concept of freedom has been abolished? Thought will be different. In fact, there will be no thought as we understand it now. Orthodoxy means not thinking, not needing to think. Orthodoxy is unconsciousness. And what do we see going on in schools and textbooks today? Well, a great example of this, and a well-known example, is how they have began to put into textbooks that LGBTQ and all these other sexual acronym agendas that have been taking place, that it's okay if your mommy is a cross-dresser, or if you're a 16-year-old or a younger child and you feel the need, and you're born a boy, to become a girl. This is a perfect example of what happens, because what's going to happen when they end up having kids, if they do have kids, you know, and they see their mommy or their daddy, who is actually, you know, they won't even know how to tell whether or not it's a boy or a girl based upon the fact that their appearance has changed. So if they're born a guy but they look like a girl, but they actually were born a guy, they would never know that. And then on top of that, the schools teach this, and then you have a mainstream, TV shows and movies that promote this. You have completely confused the whole entire population, especially the younger people growing up. And what ends up happening when that happens, well, you kind of have what Rome happened, and they basically burn to the ground because it's not a natural thing to do. And I think what's going to happen is that there's going to have to be a dramatic rewrite, a dramatic, you know, we have to wipe the slate clean. And that's a very complicated thing, because just what you were saying, Shining, is what happens when we get rid of the government. Then what? I mean, you know, most people don't know about these kind of concepts of people ruling over us. Then we're just going to go right back to square one. You know, and then the argument is, well, we need to get the good people to rule over us. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. The whole point is you're still getting somebody to rule over you. And this is a very complicated thing to have to figure out. You know, it's something I'm trying to figure out.
I often hear this idea that if the government falls, there'll be people starving. And someone told a story about the price of things and during the Depression and everything. And then I think, you know, America in general is just going to be it's the breadbasket to the world mainly. The idea of people starving and that stuff, and would be the only way that would happen is if there was sort of this Ireland thing, and the resources were taken out and sold by the rich to the greedy to support other cultures and everything like that. So it was a ridiculous concept. But I have to think, man, we're going to have these big, huge wars and everything now. Wouldn't it be easier to get rid of the 100,000 bad people instead of having 1 million like other people die, or 2 million, or up to 1 billion. You know.
I want to say something completely out there. All right, and I know this is absolutely out there, so don't be. If you say it's crazy, I perfectly understand. But what if those 100 people aren't necessarily human?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they
What if
sort
they're
of.
beyond what we understand them as
Yeah,
being
like lizard
to
people. Yeah.
control?
Oh, it's possible. I mean, I think you'd be a fool to say that's absolutely nonsense. It's possible. I mean, there's things that go on that, let's face it, even the most intelligent man couldn't explain to you. Even the most research scientist couldn't explain. I mean, there's things happening you know, we don't know about. You know, things going
I like to
behind
look. I
the
like to
scenes
look
that we
at it
don't
from
know.
this
You know.
perspective. I think that if such a small group of people are able to control such a large amount of the population, what on earth do these people have? What do they know, and who are they that they are able to do such immense amounts of control? I mean, you can say, oh, they got technology or they've been doing this for years. It's like, but there hasn't been a single chink in the armor this thing along. There has only been the illusion of such. They have managed to remain in control. And this is why I brought that point up, because I think that there is a force so far beyond. You know, I can't remember what president. I think this was a president that we had. I can't remember, but he said, "Oh, it was John F. Kennedy." He said there is a power so great and so terrifying out there that those who know of it dare not speak of its name. Well, what in the world could that be? What on earth is that power that nobody even dares to speak about it?
Hmm.
Like, oh, it's the secret societies. It's like that, but that's not very scary. What is really going on? And that's why I brought that point up. I think that there are forces that are at work here, and this is why I brought up the spiritual aspect earlier in the podcast. That, you know, this. I mean, if you think about it, why do these people participate in satanic rituals for? They just do it because it's cute and fun. I think they're doing it because they know that there's another power outside of this thing that they know that they get power from. I think that's really what it comes down to. And it's a radical thing to think about. And the reason why I think it's so radical for most people is because it's so beyond human. You know, I made a video that I uploaded about Atlas Shrugged, and he said, you know, for, you know, you can't, it said, he was talking about how your innocence cannot understand the magnitude of evil that these people are involved in, and that because you're innocent, you don't know how evil really can be. And I think that there is some validity to that. But it's just a thought. You know, that's a very complex subject to get into. You know, we can argue all the time of, well, it could be this, you know, there could be these things going on. But ultimately, even if that is the case, what are we, how do we even begin to tackle such an extraordinary problem? That would require either divine intervention or us to be able to come to a point where we understand that that's the case, and we better get educated about it right quick. You know, these are very, you know, these are extremes of thought that I wander into because, you know, I've kind of gone past the basics of what this problem is. You know, I think the big talking points that a lot of people seem to bring up is, oh, well, you know, it's the bills that are passed, or it's the politics. This is so beyond politics. This is so beyond politics, and that's why I only can come to the conclusion of what else could it be other than non-human.
Well, to your credit, I mean, more and more people, and let's face it, people years ago would have just scoffed and laughed at that. More and more respectable people are considering this possibility. I mean, they're saying they they don't know if they're uh, creatures or beings with better technology than us, if they're from another dimension, if they were here before us and they were hidden, or if they're all around us and they're just outside our visible spectrum, if they are from another planet or another part of the space. You know, more and more people are beginning to consider this. And if it wasn't for the fact that there was a guy who I won't say his name, But when he mentioned it decades ago, I remember I was very, very young. I just started watching him on television. He threw away a very promising TV career by
I know who you're
saying
talking about.
this.
Yeah,
Everyone knows someone's but I'm not going to say his name.
yeah. It starts with a D, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
he said this, and let's face it, everything he said so far that's been provable has come true. And now he's actually quite big, so I mean, to your credit, that there is that. But for me, I'm on the fence on this. I mean, uh, I don't think we can say one way or the other. The only thing we can say is we are under control. We are subject to rule. I mean, where do you guys? I mean, just the two of you here. I mean, I want to ask you two questions. Number one, where would you like to see things go in terms of our nation, our society, or as a human race? And number two, where do you think things are likely to go? Let's give Trav a go. I know Trav is itching so Trav, where do you think? Where would you like to see us go as a race, as a nation, and where do you think we probably will be heading to? Trav, I think he's gone.
I think you might be away from the mic.
Well, brilliant. Then obviously, what element, please? Where do you think?
Well, I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth no matter how disturbing it is. And that's been my whole journey of my own personal research into these kinds of topics is I want to know the truth. I want to know what is going on here. And I don't want any kind of mainstream or I don't want a rational explanation because I know there isn't one. I think that there are rational explanations for everything, but I think if what we're dealing with here is beyond our comprehension, and I want to know what that is. And a lot of what I've been researching in has gone to that extent because when you look at the world, there is no explanation. I mean, politics doesn't explain it because we know that it's all manipulated. Mainstream media is not going to talk about it. People, in general, that they don't want to talk about it. So what is the deal then? I think that to answer your first question is, where would I like to see the world go? I would like to know the truth. I would like to know no matter where it leads me, I want to know what's going on because that's the only way we're going to get anywhere is if we know what's going on, whether we like it or not. That's the only way we're going to get the information because right now, we're limited on information of what is going on behind the shadows. And I think my argument to that would be, well, if they're keeping it so hidden, then there must be something there to all this. And if they told people on, the whole thing would collapse because people would stop everything they're doing and wait a minute, what's going on up there? And that would bring the whole system down. The whole illusion of the control would come down to its knees.
Just a second, but are you sure about that? I mean, let's just play that scenario in our heads for a
I
second.
don't think it would come down to its knees.
Yeah, just a second. I mean, picture the scene from They Live. You guys have seen They Live. You must have seen They Live. Right at the end when the signal goes down and all the creatures that aren't human, their actual appearance is visible, and everyone can see that they're not human. I I theorize that things wouldn't change at all. I think people, as sheepish and as zombified as they are, they would say, you know what, I want to keep my 60K job a year. I want to keep my position. I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm going to carry on. I know, so long as I'm getting my pussy and my sports channel and my comfortable living. I don't care if it's an alien from outer space or my little pet a biscuit that's calling the shots. I think that's where we're at now as a society. I really think that people are so afraid to go outside the box that they don't care where that dollar comes from, whether it's blood money or whether it's honorably earned. I think we as a society, I mean, and that backs up Captain of the Starship's a point that people really do need to change before and anything else happens. But yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Element, but
Yeah, I hadn't
I just
thought
wanted to
about
throw that in.
yeah, one of my favorite videos on YouTube is from a non-MGTOW. He's called CPG Gray. He does a video on how rulers rule.
Mm.
And that whether we think we have rulers or we don't think we have rulers, that's a different story. Whether you think you're democracy, whether you think you're elected officials, they're still rulers. And one of the way rulers rule is the biggest way is get people on your side.
I mean, would you consider that element? I mean, would you consider that perhaps even if people find out that a reptilian race that was dying out pull the strings on Donald Trump, pull the strings on Theresa May, are pulling the strings on not only on the presidents and prime ministers, but on those people that control them. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you all saw those footage when there were people telling Ronald Reagan what to say and what to do. I mean, there's people over those people. I mean, have you considered that element?
Oh, I agree with you. I think what I was talking about is that if they actually ended up coming out in the open and sharing with it, like out of the blue, like, oh yeah, aliens run the whole damn show, and the people who you think are human are not human. I think if they, my what I was trying to say is if they were that blatant on it about it, which they're not going to be, because they wouldn't tell people that, because it's like if you're an enemy, you want to camouflage yourself. You wouldn't just come out in the open and say it, because then you'd be a target. But then again, there's if you thought about it, if there really are these things, then they probably have capabilities so beyond our comprehension. They're not worried. But yes, I agree with you. I think because if you just look at like the kind of movies that they put out today, like with Independence Day, they're normalizing it. Like if somebody saw that, people think that, oh, we saw a flying saucer, they're here to help us. That's how like ignorant people are. They think that every time that they see a flying saucer, or they talk about the whatever alien species that's there for love and light and all this crap, they think that it's just automatically good. But if you think about it, these things are so if they really are these things, they're probably so, first of all, they're not even in the same dimension, so they're already 300 years and beyond ahead of us. To think that they can't deceive us with something like that, you're out of your mind. And so I agree with you. I think that unfortunately people are so dumbed down now that if they saw an alien saucer or something come down out of the sky and appear, they think, oh, that's so cool, and then they just start obliterating everybody with a laser beam. And then people, because I'm serious. I mean, like if people, I bet you that if on the news they said a other dimensional spacecraft has landed in some park somewhere, every freaking person in that area would go look at it. And then it would just be like a giant mousetrap. And then the thing just opens up and goes, hi, we are from such and such planet, and we're here to help you. And then in a split second, they just obliterate somebody with like a plasma ray. You know what I mean? Because people don't, you're exactly right, though, Shining. People really are that dumb.
Okay, so on to the second part of the question. What do you think is likely to happen then?
I think, in terms of coming back to Earth, coming back to Earth here, I think that what's happened is that this agenda, and talking my mentionings of 1984, everything in 1984 pretty much is happened. Not everything, but most of it has. We have a big brother superstate that's watching everything you do. We have the people buying into the political system like they do. That hasn't changed any. We have the abolition or the destruction of the family. The feminist agenda, which is the anti-sex league, has come in place. All of these things, and the guy that wrote the book worked for MI6, and that's what his whole point of writing the book was that he wanted to share with people what their agenda was to be pushed forward. I think this is going to be a slow progression. I think that's what's going to happen. I think slowly it's going to be incremented, because if we look back 5 or even just 10 years ago about what the world used to look like compared to what it is now, look how far we've gone down the rabbit hole. I mean, feminism is now accepted. I just made a video about this on my channel talking about how on TLC, which is a show here, they have made a TV show about a 16-year-old transsexual. How much farther do you think they're going to push this thing? That's now the new normal. And not only that, in Canada, they have made a law to say that if you don't use the right pronouns or acronyms describing these people and their sexual gender choice, it's a criminal offense. And not only that, I'll take it a step further. On their driver's license, they have now created a third gender option, which they call, like, they can label it as X, and that could be a gender option for somebody who does not wish to be male or female.
Have you come across the Secret Bankers Covenant document? Have you heard of that?
No, what is that?
Well, let me read you some of it and see if any of it sounds familiar. Now this is a document that was supposedly drafted hundreds of years ago. It was supposed to be their targets and their goals for this group of people. And I think this was up on the British Museum or the British Library up until I think up until not so long ago, a couple of decades ago. But let me read you some of it, see if it sounds familiar. It's called the Secret Bankers Covenant. And it starts, an illusion it will be, so large, so vast it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought as of insane. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be to accomplish one drop at a time so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the Absolute. We will work together always and will remain bound by blood and secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouth. They will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. From all this, their children will be born dead. We will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, in what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We must be ingenious in dispensing the poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them the poisons are good, and with fun images and musical tones, they will look up they will look up to us for help. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products being used in film and will grow accustomed to them and will never know their true effect. When they give birth, we will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it's for their help. We will start early on when their minds are young. We will target their children with what children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals that will kill their mind and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine. And then it goes on to say we will destroy the family, we will seize their land and property so that they will legally own nothing. We will manipulate the law and the courts. It's actually very similar to the thing you was mentioning, the
Can you
passages.
send me that? Can you send that to me? Actually, I want to read that.
Yeah, it's pretty. It gets darker and darker.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a demonic takeover.
It does.
It sounds like a demonic invasion, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It is. It just goes to show what the type of things you can find on the internet. But no, I mean, reading that
I think
now,
there's a lot of validity to it.
yeah,
I don't take any of this lightly. I think let's be real here. All that stuff's going on.
it is going
They're
on.
putting poison in the food. They're poisoning the children's minds, the food that they eat, the things that we eat, the air that we breathe. It's all coming true.
Yeah, and what was interesting is right down at the bottom, it says they will remove the fathers from families and they will seize control of the family, which was
Yep.
really what caught my attention of this document, because that's exactly what's happened, and it's something that we talk about. Yeah, I need to find the. I need to find the.
I mentioned this before. I talked about one of the tactics, I guess you could look at it from this perspective, is that, when you have an infestation, like if you were looking like, because these people look at us like insects. Station in your home, like let's say, for example, you have an infestation of spiders in your home. Well, you don't kill every single spider because they'll just keep coming. Where do they come from? They come from the nest or the home. Eradicate the nest or the home, then you eradicate the reproduction of the army. That's what they're doing. They're targeting the nest, which is the house or the home, the family, and poisoning that home or the nest with poisons, literally and figuratively and psychologically, make them from reproducing. And in 1984, the purpose of what they wanted to do was create this thing called, I'll read it. It says the only recognizable purpose for marriage was to get children for the service of the party. For the party members, all children were to be begotten by artificial insemination, called ARTSEM, and brought up in public institutions. Well, we do have artificial insemination right now. And it says here, already we are breaking down the habits of thought which we have survived from them before the revolution. We have cut the links between the child and the parent, and between the man and the man, and between the man and the woman. No one dares to trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. No wives, no friends. Children will be taken from their parents at birth, as once they take eggs from a hen. The sex instinct will become eradicated. Procreation will be formality like a new formality, like a new revival of a ration card. So, in other words, they're going to make it to be such a disgusting act that they would eradicate the family. People's minds look at it as a disgusting act. But here's the problem, and this is where MGTOW comes into play. What other choice do we have if they're doing this? If we go out there and procreate with women, and those women are destroyed and their minds are all fucked up with feminism and the propaganda, are we just going to go walk right into the poison field? So we've been caught in between a catch-22. So, I say that, but I also say that the only other option we have as men is to walk away from it, because they're poisoned. Even if we wanted to go down that path, it's a nuclear waste field down there full of radiation. So they've basically pigeonholed us into a corner is what they've done.
Wow, this is deep, man. Well,
Yep.
I'm gonna wrap this up now, but I've just looked on the website which had the document is gone. So I don't know where you're gonna
Oh,
find
it
this
is.
document. So I don't know. I'm just gonna. There's only two more sides. I'm just gonna read these other two sides out, because it does actually get worse. So if you guys have the patience, you can listen to these to the. It's called the Secret Bankers Covenant. I'm just gonna read the last two sides out, and you guys see if this is what's happening now. And if you guys don't want to listen, then this will be the end of the podcast anyway. So it continues. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese. And when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will focus their attention towards money and material goods so they may never connect with their inner self. We will distract them with fornication, external pleasures, and games so they may never be one with the oneness of it all. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do as we say. They will refuse. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their government and establish their opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective, but carry out our plan. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from the oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them with kindly and gently letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will foment animosity between them through our factions. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule or death, whichever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts apart and kill their own children. We will accomplish this by using hate as our ally, anger as our friend. The hate will blind them totally, and never shall they see that from their conflicts we emerge as their rulers. They will be busy killing each other. They will bathe in their own blood and kill their neighbors for as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot see us. We will continue to prosper from their wars and their deaths. We shall repeat this over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished. We will continue to make them live in fear and anger through images and sounds. We will use all the tools we have to accomplish this. The tools will be provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. This they must never know. They must never know that color is an illusion. They must always think they are not equal. Drop by drop, by drop by drop, we will advance our goal. We will take over their land, resources, and wealth by exercising total control over them. We will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom they will have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story to the world, for we shall own all the media. We will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiment in our favor. When they rise up against us, we shall crush them like insects, for they are less than that to us. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. We will recruit some of their own to carry out our plans. We will promise them eternal life, but eternal life they will never have, for they are not one of us. The recruits will be called initiates, and will be indoctrinated to believe false rites of passage to higher realms. Members of these groups will think that they are one with us, but never knowing the truth. They must never learn this truth, or they will turn against us. For their work they will be rewarded with earthly things and great titles, but never will they become immortal and join us. Never will they receive the light and travel the stars. They will never reach the higher realms, for the killing of their own kind will prevent passage to the realm of enlightenment. This they will never know. The truth will be hidden in their face so close they will not be able to focus on it until it's too late. Oh yes, so grand the illusion of freedom will be that they will never know they are our slaves. When all is in place, the reality we will have created for them will own them. The reality will be their prison. They will live in self-delusion. When our goal is accomplished, a new era of domination will begin. Their minds will be bound by their beliefs. Their beliefs we have established from time immemorial.
That sounds like YouTube in a nutshell.
Oh,
Hi, Johnny.
How are you doing, guys?
Howdy.
I just got back from work. I was held up late, trying to close the sale. I did it, but it was like trying to reel in a 25-pound shark. But I did it.
Well, it's good job.
For...
It's good job Johnny came in because we were just saying element that we were going to keep it light, but it always ends up quite dark.
Yeah, that thing that you're reading there, I found it. Yeah, that is hardcore evil. It's hardcore evil. That's what it is.
What is that from, Shining? I mean, I'm late to the game. Sorry.
Element. What does the website say it is?
Freedom-school.com.
Freedom-school.
Johnny, it's from this thing called the Secret Covenant. The rulers and things, their agenda of what they're going to do to the world, and basically it's all come true.
Well, yeah, it has.
So
and when I said that sounds like YouTube in a nutshell, I wasn't joking. I guess I kind of was, but
when it's put in that way, it seems a lot more ominous than actually living it. I mean, we're all living in that era. I mean, we're all living in it. We're all seeing it. our society crumble, and family and human spirituality mocked. But when it's put in the words that I've just read out, it sounds totally ominous.
I said, Johnny, I said to Shining, I said, it sounds like a demonic invasion is what it sounds like.
Well, yeah, it does, or at least it's being orchestrated by people who are in compact with demonic entities, I guess, if you could say, or at least they believe they are. And for some reason or another, they have the knowledge, the power, and the resources to make this, to enable this strategy against the majority of the people. I mean, everybody here understands, I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but the damn thing is there. It's called the Georgia Guidestones. They say, we really, really want to get Earth down to 500 million people.
It's the archons. It's what it is. Let's just get down to it.
Yeah, the archons, the rulers. And that is... You don't vote them in, okay? Donald Trump's not an archon, okay? Ahmadinejad is not an archon. Theresa May is not an archon. None of them are. These guys are elsewhere. We probably don't even know the names of most of them.
Yeah, they are nothing more than transportation devices, because these archons are parasites. They're mind parasites, if you want to look at it like that. And they are using these people as nothing more than figureheads or stand-ins. I don't know how deep I want to get into this, because this stuff gets real serious, but I'll just say this. When they talk about basically, these people are nothing more than wetware for these things. And so it's like if you were to pull a mask over your head, and the mask is these things, but I shouldn't have put it that way, because it's kind of retarded.
Well,
but
no, if you're playing an MMO, you are the archon and you get an avatar, and that avatar is able to navigate that world. That's simulacrum.
They're avataring human beings. That's exactly what it is.
Angela Merkel would be the avatar of an archon, let's say, or Mark Zuckerberg, sure, or George Soros, or Warren Buffett, or even people whom we think might be a good guy right now. I hate to say it, but I'm not really sure I can trust any type of altruism anymore. Sad to say.
I think, Shining, I think what you were reading there is what these things' plan is, because I think that what's happened is, and this is kind of the research I get into, and it's pretty deep and dark, but honestly, I think what's happened is that they have avatared people in key positions, which is one of the reasons why you have to be part of a bloodline. Like when I was working in the film business, one thing I learned was that you have to be part of certain kinds of groups of people. I'm not going to mention those groups of people because it would kind of get into, I don't want to pit sides against people. That's not the point. But you have to be born into a certain kind of lineage of a certain race of people. And those people have been said or notorious to have carried these type of things inside of them. And that is why they only let or vet individuals, because what happens is they become part of a hive mind. And in this hive mind, they all think the same, they all act the same, because they are infected with this type of parasite. And so, if you go watch a movie called The Stepford Wives, that is an example of what kind of is like. These things work in unison. They work together. They are completely involved in completing an agenda, and they all know what the agenda is because they're all kind of working behind the scenes to complete the exact same deal. and they are being avatared people. This is where we come with the ancient term of possession, but in more modern times, or terms you could use, would be they are being avatared by hyperdimensional entities.
I like that term, being avatared. Yeah, like you know, I have there is a force that has taken this person. There's an entity that has taken this person and turned them into a Waldo. That has turned them into a symbiotic control system on another level of hypothesis. So this, let's say this Archon, as you and I have, we've surmised in the past, may not be of this particular reality. They are able to create a leap between their reality and ours to control people in our prime material reality to do their bidding. And this avatar, of course, is rewarded for it.
Yeah. What do you think, Shining?
Am I totally nuts?
No. This is all new to, as you guys can clearly see. This is all new to me. I'm just looking at that website you pointed out. As I said, the website I found this on has gone. So I'm looking at this new website, freedomschool.com. So yeah,
I put the link in the description for you.
Okay, thank you.
YouTube is not giving it justice. I'm looking at the other websites. I can understand why people think it's a bit, because they get distracted. You know, you get proper kooks that don't really. Well, first of all, I think some of them are infiltrators, that they're just trying to laugh at, make mockery. So they make this spoof website, and obviously YouTube is full of that. I think any man, any conscionable man should be open-minded, because no man knows everything. So I'm trying to be open-minded. I'm learning this as I go along. Like I said, the first time I came across such strangeness, such strange theories, was when I came across this man who you know who I'm talking about, and the fact that everybody scoffed and laughed at him, and now he's like, let's face it, he's one of the biggest YouTube celebrities. He is he sells packed out lectures, because basically people that are seeing what he was saying is coming true. But
That's right, Shining. PewDiePie is going to save reality.
Yeah, not PewDiePie, but yeah.
I know, I'm fucking with you.
I used to watch this guy when I was very young. Like I said, he threw away a very promising TV career because he really, really believed this. And if I remember correctly, I think I did actually. Well, I was with my dad once. This is how far we're going back. And I think I did meet the guy once, and he didn't meet my dad because my dad's into alternative medicine. Obviously, this guy's into alternative stuff. So I think my dad did meet him at one point. He seemed like a very, very nice guy. He's quite old now. He's got arthritis and stuff. But yeah, so I'm gonna read more about this. But Johnny, I had no idea you was into this stuff as well. You
oh yeah, I am. Oh yeah, absolutely. I could actually give you guys a reading list on our Hangout and of
go ahead.
Books that you'd like to. Well, yeah, later tonight. There's a couple of authors that I'd like you to read. Some of them are fiction, but they are talking about these exact type of, well, I guess what you could say is this type of hypothetical paradigm that's going on right now. I hate using egghead words, but that's what it is. Where
be obvious.
Yeah, I know. Save it free. Like, Johnny Midnight. I don't even know how to say that.
Well, what's happening to you? You gone crazy? What are you smoking?
I don't want to hear that jibber jabber. But yeah, I'll leave you guys on the Hangout that you had left me, Shining, of certain authors and books. One of whom I really enjoy is he's like a bizarro alt literature writer named Jordan Krall, and he has written the False Magic Kingdom trilogy. The 3 books are False Magic Kingdom, Bad Alchemy, and Your Cities, Your Tombs. And he also has written a short, well, it's not really short, but it's sort of a prose book called Humanity is the Devil. And there you also have a British author by the name of Steve Aylett. Steve Aylett wrote the blueprint for the movie The Matrix in a novel form called The Bigot Hall back in 1996. The Wachowski brothers loved this book, and it includes even the Black Cats and the Lady in Red and everything. Those two guys pretty much ripped Steve off and made this just gigantic movie. And Steve also has a lot of other books that are talking about challenging the nature of our own reality and what's really behind it. Now they're fiction books, okay, and they're kind of weird and hard to digest in some ways, but it's not just going to be like the same reading list that we usually get. Like, yeah, you got to read Orwell, you got to read Ayn Rand, you got to read, Brave New World. This is, these people are sort of writers in the underground, but do have a good establishment of reality. And it'll give you sort of a entertaining and thought-provoking introduction. Not really introduction, but it would give you that sort of survey to the subject we're talking about.
Rather than that, why don't you give us a few excerpts? Some paragraphs that perhaps perked your interest. I mean, what kind of things did you read in those books?
I have them all on Kindle right now, and I really don't have anything underlined that I could pull out without it really interrupting the podcast. So I'm just gonna go and send that out to you, and you can at least read the synopses of these different books, and if they do kind of resonate with you, they're very cheap on Kindle.
Well, don't be coy, Johnny Midnight. Is not your style. Tell us some of the things that you pulled out from these books. Tell us some of the information that you might have gleaned. Share with us.
With say Jordan Krall's False Magic Kingdom, he writes a lot like the author J.G. Ballard, who wrote Crash and the Atrocity Exhibition, and most famously High Rise. They also made a movie out of Ballard's book Empire of the Sun, when he was a little boy who had to live in a Japanese internment camp because he was caught behind lines in Hong Kong. But what it is about is the anatomy of a disaster such as the World Trade Center, and how it is actually being controlled by archons. Humans, of course, executed this, but the humans who had executed such an atrocity are actually being controlled from forces elsewhere, or otherwhere, if you will. And what Element's talking about in terms of how these humans that do have this type of power are a form of wetware. They have been avatared to enact these types of strategies against humanity. That would be the False Magic Kingdom trilogy in a nutshell. And the writing is kind of weird, but it also is pretty digestible at the same time. I really like it. Like I said,
I just saw the book. I'm going to have to get it. The False Magic Kingdom cycle.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, Element is right up your alley. I've met Jordan a lot. He's a really smart guy, and I like a lot what he has to say about the nature of our reality and the possibilities of what may be controlling it. And he's Gnostic, and he's into. And if you don't know what Gnosticism is, out in the chat room, it's sort of like a I guess you could say it's sort of like an ongoing revelation. The revelation will not come. It's going on right now and always has been, in terms of our own eschatology and in terms of our own demise and our own creation. It's constantly happening. It's a twofold. It's a twofold cohabitance of two different realities, and it's almost like we have to share our reality with another reality, which of a lower vibration, where Element is talking about where the archons are, native to. So I hope that made a little bit of sense.
Well, Johnny, I know I understand exactly what you're saying, because I do this kind of stuff, and I looked at the description here where it says sodomy and 9/11 land. I think that's pretty much sums that up, because that's kind of what happened. That's what happened, and it has to do with. I don't want to get too into this because it would get me in trouble. But,
sure, me too, right?
So, but that kind of stuff is what that has to do with, and we could talk more off air on this, but. Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up the book. There's a lot of stuff I could talk about this, because I know more than I'm saying right now on air. But if I really wanted to get into detail with it, I could really just blow your mind off air. But I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad that you brought that up, Johnny, because I'm going to check out that book. And Shining, I think you might want to read the book too, because that book is basically, there's a lot of truth into that book. I'm just going to say that.
Well,
just from the description, right?
Well, I'm gonna have to close this podcast now, but I don't know Element, if you want to continue the podcast on your channel, or if you guys gonna talk off.
I'd love to talk to Element somehow, because I just got in. This is really getting it's really I'm very enthusiastic about this. So I'm just saying.
I mean, I can talk about it, but I have to talk about it off air.
I'm fine. I'm totally fine about it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people like now. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us, everyone contributing. Shout out to Shingles, John Kramer, Trav joining us, Gregory Silverado. If you haven't seen his channel, check his channel, guys. And hopefully we'll speak again sooner rather than later. Peace, brothers.
See ya. Okay, Element, we're still live, just so you know. Who's hosting this right now?
Well, Shining is hosting.
Okay. So I think what we should do, and everybody can know, because we're live, what we're going to do is, why don't we...
go ahead and end it. I'll hang it up.
And then get me on Hangouts.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you a link after this, and... we'll go ahead and talk further on that. And but yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Me and Johnny are going to go. We're going to talk about a few things.
Okay.
But I appreciate everybody for joining, and we'll talk to you guys shortly. And I appreciate Shining for having me on. And if anybody has anything else to put in there, just leave in the chat, and I'll read it. And thanks guys for joining, and we'll talk to you shortly.
Have a good midnight.